Humans of Earth, we crave knowledge. Tell us more about your United States. Last week we looked at the southwest region of the United States. And now, we're nearly at the finish of our exploration of the geography of the U.S. Today, you'll be sending a dispatch back to Admiral Zorg on planet Proteus. This time, about the region to the west of Arizona. The West Coast. I'd like you to select at least two important or key terms, or at least interesting terms from the chapter. Please don't choose terms that have already been given in the glossary. Admiral Zorg already knows those. I'd also like you to define those terms, and at the very end, prepare 2 exit tickets to make sure that the Admiral has been paying attention. And now, the West Coast. Exploring the West Coast. This region is made up of 3 states that border the Pacific Ocean. These states are Washington, Oregon, and California. After flying over Nevada, we headed west again toward the Pacific Ocean. The part of the United States that borders on the Pacific is known as the West Coast. There are 3 states on the West Coast: California, Oregon, and Washington. California is by far the biggest of the 3, covering 2/3 of the coast. It also has more people than any other state. We decided to begin our exploration of California in Los Angeles, the biggest city in the state. Flying over the city, we were amazed by just how big it was. It spread out as far as the eye could see in every direction. We learned that big roads called freeways tie this sprawling city together. Los Angeles is so spread out that people sometimes spend hours every day in their cars, driving from home to work and back again. Since almost everyone has a car, there are too many cars on the roads, and traffic gets jammed. Americans call the times they drive to work in the morning and back home at night rush hour. Los Angeles is home to people of many different backgrounds. For example, there are European Americans, Asian Americans, African Americans, and Hispanic Americans, to name a few. As you wander around LA, as the people who live there call it, you hear not only English and Spanish, but also languages such as Japanese and Korean. Los Angeles is famous for its beautiful sandy beaches. On summer days, the beaches are packed with people who have come there to enjoy themselves. We were there in the winter, so there weren't as many people on the beach, but we did get to see some people surfing. A surfer paddles out into the water with a long board. He waits for a big wave to arrive. Then he actually stands up on the board and glides down the wave, a little bit like the skiers we saw gliding down the snowy hillsides in Colorado. Los Angeles is also famous for being the world capital of the movie business. As you know, Admiral, Earthlings are very fond of sitting in pitch-black rooms and looking at the flickering pictures they call movies. The best-known actors and actresses who appear in those movies are called stars. Americans almost seem to worship them. In fact, I saw something very odd in a part of LA called Hollywood, where thousands of movies have been made. It was a place where movie stars had stuck their hands and feet in soft cement so that when the cement hardened, people could come to see their handprints and footprints. Los Angeles is in the southern part of California. Flying north to explore the rest of the state, we saw some very different landscapes. To the north, California coast becomes rocky rather than sandy. Tall cliffs plunge down to the ocean, and huge waves explode against the rocks. Mountains, valleys, steep hills. Flying inland from the coast, we crossed a range of mountains. Then we came to a long valley that stretches all the way down the center of the state. When we flew low over the valley, we saw that it was covered with farms. Later, we learned that this is one of the most important food-growing regions of the United States. Flying further east, we came to a range of tall mountains, which the map calls the Sierra Nevada. According to the map, the tallest mountain in the range is Mount Whitney. Later, we learned that this is the tallest mountain in the United States, outside of Alaska. As beautiful as the mountains were, we were eager to see California's other famous city, San Francisco, so we turned our ship back toward the coast. San Francisco is very different from Los Angeles. San Francisco is full of elegant new skyscrapers, as well as lovely old houses. Its parks are lush and green, displaying interesting trees and flowers collected from all over Earth. The city sits beside a beautiful blue bay. Spanning the bay is the famous Golden Gate Bridge. The bridge's 2 towers are 70 stories tall, and they're connected to the bridge by great swooping cables. Much of San Francisco is built on steep hills. At the end of each day's exploring, we were worn out and aching from all that climbing up and down. We learned that over 100 years ago, someone felt sorry for the houses that had to haul heavy wagons up the steep hills. He felt so sorry for them that he invented a new way to haul things in San Francisco. It was a kind of little train called a cable car, which was pulled along by an iron rope set in the ground. Today, people from all over the world come to ride the cable cars up San Francisco's hills. After leaving San Francisco, we flew north to explore the states of Oregon and Washington, which make up the area called the Pacific Northwest. From the air, we noticed a long mountain range which runs through both states from north to south. The map said that these were called the Cascade Mountains. Later, we found out that these mountains were very important to the climate of the region. When winds blow in from the Pacific, they pick up lots of moisture from the sea. When the air rises to cross the mountains, it cools off. Since cold air holds less moisture than warm air, the moisture falls as rain. Lots of rain. The western part of Oregon and Washington is one of the rainiest areas in the United States. We were amazed by how wet the area was. It drizzled almost the whole time we were there, but we were also surprised at how green it was. All that rain has helped give life to great forests full of towering trees. Lots of people in this region make their living by logging, cutting down trees to use for building or to make products like paper. But many of the trees are protected from cutting and set aside in national parks for people to enjoy. After leaving the park, we flew off to visit Seattle, Washington, which is the biggest city in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe because it rains so much, Seattle is full of coffee houses. The most famous building in Seattle is known as the Space Needle. It is a tall tower with a funny-looking round top shaped, sort of like the toy that Americans call the yo-yo. The tower is known as the Space Needle because the top is supposed to look like the sort of spaceship that aliens from another planet might use to visit Earth. Of course, it looks nothing like a real spaceship. We all had a good laugh over this. Earthlings can be so funny. There you are, geographers and historians. Next week, we'll look at the last region of the United States. It's the region that encompasses only 2 states, Alaska and Hawaii. The only two states in the Union that aren't connected to the continent, to the continental states as we call them. Tune in next time for our final dispatch to Admiral Zorg on the geography of the United States.